Hello friends, and welcome to the 2024 wrap-up. The wrap-up of books, baking, and other cozy content, the wrap-up of everything that's happened this year, but most importantly, I wanted to talk about the books. The books that were great, the books that were okay, and the books that were like, what was I reading? And everything else. And so this is going to be kind of a mashup of Melissa's Cozy Corner wrap-up year, focused mainly on books because that was kind of a big thing for me this year. I pushed myself to read a lot of new books and a lot of interesting books. I created some goals, or better said, encouragements, because these goals weren't like I have to do them. They were more, hey Melissa, try to do these things. And we can continue these things also in the new year of 2025. But we're not going to talk about 2025 in this video. That's next video. Today is just all of the things that we were able to accomplish this year in 2024. And to be honest, I'm really excited about this because I have read more books this year than I have read in any of my other years. I tried encouraging myself to read a lot more, and I did. I read 60 books. 60 books is an amazing number. And now I want to go ahead and talk about a couple books that I really loved. I really loved, I okayed, and I really didn't like for specific reasons. And try to keep this video not so long because I can tell it's already going to be a long one. So let's go ahead and jump into the 5 books I loved this year. And these are books that I gave 5 stars to and I think are really truly magnificent and offered a really wonderful insight into something new. Under the Whispering Door by TJ Klune. I know this author got a lot of flack this year for the Cerulean Sea novel. I haven't read this one, but I do know that there was a lot of talk from TJ Klune about how they received a lot of ideas and inspiration, but didn't realize maybe the extent of how it would have affected certain people. So they wrote a second book, and that book's actually doing really well as well. And it's on the second book of the Cerulean Sea. So I haven't read either of these books. However, Under the Whispering Door by TJ Klune was magnificent. I really love this novel. It is about a man who lives kind of a very uneventful, dredged, sad life of work and no play. And he ends up dying. And before going to wherever he goes in the afterworld, he goes to this limbo land. And this limbo land ends up being this cute little tea shop owned by a magnificent man who makes tea and serves not just these people who are in limbo, but also just the general community. And I really love this book because it talks about the point of life. If life is meant to just be lived to get through, or meant to enjoy and explore and work through. And this is something I kind of lean towards because I really like the idea. That's, I think, one of the reasons I pick up a lot of Japanese literature is because it talks a lot about finding a purpose in life and how our purpose isn't just to work and then to go away. Our purpose is to explore, love, cherish, be more, and try to give more to the people that we love and to the people that need it. And so I felt like this novel was the exploration between what this mundane life is and then what it meant for our character to kind of grow and become more. And I highly encourage you to read this book. I think it was really magnificent. I felt like it was very beautifully written. It was very full of life and character. The characters are wonderful in this novel. I'm a character-driven reader. If you don't know, I've mentioned it multiple times, and it was just truly beautiful. So I highly encourage you to pick up this novel. It's just really beautifully written, and I think the story and the purpose behind this novel can be very eye-opening and beautiful for a lot of people. So I encourage it. I recommend it, and it's one of my top books for 2024. My next book is going to be Agua Viva, which I mentioned. Agua Viva is definitely a book that I don't think a lot of people would enjoy. Not meant for everybody, but if you are interested in maybe picking up a different type of genre, this is a stream of consciousness, and this is pretty much a person who's writing down their thoughts without questioning what they're writing. It can be dreadful, it can be filled with happiness, it can be filled with questions and concerns, it can be filled with unpleasantries and just thoughts. And I think a lot of people who have one of the big things that I was learning about this year is that some of us have an internal monologue at all times. I'm one of those people. I have an internal monologue. I just constantly have stuff going on up here. And to read somebody else's internal monologue in writing was really intriguing. It was really kind of powerful, and it made me feel almost seen. And some of the lines in this novel were absolutely beautiful. I can't recommend this book enough to people who are just kind of interested in the stream of consciousness and blatant, outspoken ideas. I am going to, of course, share a couple of my favorite quotes, so be prepared.
I write to you as an exercise in sketching before painting. I see words. What I say is pure, present, and this book is a straight line in space. It is always current, and a camera's photometer opens and immediately closes, but keeping within it the flash. Even if I say I lived or I shall live, it's present because I'm saying them now. Listen only superficially to what I say, and from the lack of meaning, a meaning will be born. As for me, a high and light life is inexplicably born. The dense jungle of words thickly envelops what I feel and live, and transforms everything I am into something of mine that remains outside me.
If any of those quotes seem gripping or interesting, I highly recommend picking up this novel. It's very, very short, but really kind of introspective and eye-opening in certain ways. So, recommended. Number 2. The third book I'm going to talk about is East of the Mountains, which is another book I've already talked about. East of the Mountains was a book that I chose blindfolded. It was on my bingo list, and this one was absolutely gorgeous. The idea behind this book is very, very mundane. It's not something that is groundbreaking. It's not something that is eye-opening, or it's not going to be gripping you at all times. It's a very simple story of an older man who's lost his life partner, and he decides that it is time to just end his life. There's no reason of giving more. And so he ends up going for a hunting trip by himself. He tells his family he's going for a hunting trip. It's just like any other hunting trip he's ever done. And he decides to go for this hunting trip by himself, and his plan is actually to go ahead and commit suicide, but make it look like an accident. And so he leaves on this hunting trip with all of the general things that you would leave behind to make it look like it's not a purposeful death. And we follow him through this mundane kind of basic story that ends up having way more meaning behind it. And the way David Gutterson writes is so beautiful. It's one of those writing styles where you're pulled through the story not based on the excitement or the intensity, but you're pulled through the story by the way the author crafts his writing and the way the words are played about on the pages. It is truly beautiful, and it's one of those novels that I couldn't put down. I read it so quickly, even though the story was very, very basic. So I highly recommend this novel for anybody who's kind of looking at the meaning of life, which is weirdly, I'm finding a theme in the books I'm finding really encouraging this year or really beautiful this year. But honestly, these types of books are really powerful, and the idea of looking at life as not just a tool to work and work, but really a tool to enjoy things that are really magnificent and understand that maybe the mundane is actually beautiful, and sitting on the sofa and reading a book is not lazy, it's actually enjoying something that's truly beautiful. These little things are really great. Going for a walk and seeing the sunshine play on the grass with little dewdrops of rain is something so small, but also something so beautiful, of just reality and nature and beauty. Sorry, whoa. But I think East of the Mountains plays with the idea quite a bit, and I think it's one of those books that I really encourage people to read because it's just so beautiful, but the idea is so easy. So, third book. Fourth book is going to be The Memory of Love by Linda Olson. Now this one is probably going to be a little controversial because the idea behind this book is kind of risque. And I generally would not like a book that has some of the topics that this book had. If you want to, I maybe would look up some trigger warnings first before reading this book. But the idea behind this one is also about finding purpose in life and finding motivations. This is about an older woman who has lost love and is felt a lot of pain, but ends up running into a young boy who is feeling maybe more pain, but trying to find the simplicity of happiness, and or happiness in its most simple form, maybe is the better way to say this. And she ends up learning how to love this boy and care for this boy and want more for this young boy. And you end up in this exploration of this relationship between these two characters, you end up also kind of exploring why she's in the situation that she is in. And like I said, there are some maybe controversial opinions about this novel, but I do think the author did a very, very great job on explaining behind the scenes on this novel, and I really encourage you to pick it up if it's maybe something that you feel you could read and enjoy. I really was shocked with how much I liked this book, how much it moved me, and then also how not accepting I was of the story, but how understanding I was, I guess. The last book, might be the most different from all these books, is Pumpkinheads by Rainbow Rowell. And this is a graphic novel, and I loved this graphic novel. I read it during the fall. It's about just two characters who are leaving off to university, and it's the last day they're working at a pumpkin patch, and it's just beautiful. It's so well done. It's gorgeous. It's filled with wonderful art and a wonderful story that's simple but beautiful about two friends just having a blast on their last day working together. It's really wonderful. So I encourage it just because it's a wonderful little story that's simple, easy, and again, beautiful. And now we've talked about the 5 books that are great, let's go ahead and talk about a couple of the books that I was like, okay about. Just as there was a theme to kind of surround the books I highly encourage or recommend and the books I love this year, there's kind of a theme of the books I found meh or okay. And it's not just because these books I didn't like, it's just the story wasn't as maybe gripping or as intriguing as I needed for the time maybe, or maybe it's just not a book for me. I still found the stories enjoyable, I still found the stories fun to read, it just wasn't as more as I needed them to be. And these books include Mort by Terry Pratchett, Kiki's Delivery Service by Iko Kodono, Hitchhiker's Guide to the Galaxy by Douglas Adams, and these are all like really popular books or books that have been well known for a reason. And it's not because I don't like Terry Pratchett or Douglas Adams or Kiki's Delivery Service, which is a book that is the inspiration for a Studio Ghibli movie. It's just because I really liked these books, but these are really easy books and really beautiful books on their own. And they're basic stories, and I love a basic story. I love a story to just sit down and gobble up and enjoy, and I don't have to gain an introspective idea or a bigger purpose behind it. They're just books to just read and love. And so a 3-star book is not a book that I hate, it's just a book that I found okay, and it was fun to read, and I enjoyed it, and it was wonderful. And I would read them again, and I would continue reading Terry Pratchett books, and I would continue reading more books that are just simple and okay. Like Pearl of End House, which is an Agatha Christie book, And I like Agatha Christie as just a fun read that I'm going to enjoy, and I don't have to extend myself to try to understand a deeper meaning. And these books are all perfect for that. And I love a 3-star book sometimes. I love a book that I'm not gonna have to really try hard to read and understand. And they're just good books. And so these okay books are okay because they're okay. They're good and they're okay, and I like that. So these are books I would recommend if you're looking for books that are just going to be a little bit more relaxed. And I love a book like that, especially if I've had a really long day or a really tough week or a really poopy month and I just need some good feeling, good-hearted and easy books. So those are my okay books. Nothing too crazy about that. It's just books that are fun and easy to read that don't carry too much meaning behind them. And the books I referenced aren't bad books. They're just books that you can read to just enjoy. And now the books that I didn't like. And I'm only going to list 2 books because I just like talking about books that I didn't enjoy, because I don't want to say the author isn't great. I don't want to say that the book was weak because it's crappy or anything like that. It's just, I think on these stories, I felt like the story itself wasn't built enough. It didn't have enough oomph, or the idea behind the story, I took away something that maybe I didn't agree with, and that's on me. You could love these books, and if you did, I'm really, really happy for you. But unfortunately for me, I felt like I didn't get something out of these, or I maybe got the wrong idea out of these, or I felt like maybe they just weren't enough, or they needed to be more and they weren't enough in that way, if that makes sense. I know that was really confusing. And there are 2 books I'm going to talk about. One of them I'm not going to talk too much about because I think I talked about it a lot at the very beginning of the year, and that one was When Women Were Dragons. I really disliked that book. I felt like the purpose of that book had a really good purpose at the beginning about women wanting to break free. And then at the end, I just was so angry at the end. I felt like it ended too quickly and was trying to come up with just like, oh, this is how it gets fixed. And I disliked it. So I technically am mentioning now 3 books. So that was a book that I mentioned at the very beginning of the year. If you want to see that review, I'll go ahead and put it in the description below, but that was just one book I didn't really sit well with. The other one is The Last Witch of Edinburgh by Maria Thompson. I felt like the story could be so much more, and it just fell short. I thought that there could have been so many answers or solutions, or we had such a powerful beginning and then the ending was just And I think that's one of the problems I have with some of these books, is that there's such a powerful story behind it and then there's such a simple ending where it doesn't finish the oomph. Like you just kind of, like you went and decided to do this wonderful triathlon. You worked really hard. You exercised, you practiced, you did all the things to get ready for it. And then the triathlon comes and you say, I'm not really interested in doing it. Like there's no oomph, there's no finish. And I think that's what happened with The Last Witch of Edinburgh. And the other one is Lady Macbeth by Ava Reid. I just felt like the story was really weak. It's a retelling, a feminist retelling. And our Lady Macbeth felt very like not feministic, and she drove me crazy, and she had no encouragements to be stronger and more for herself, where I just felt frustrated because she's supposed to have this wonderful power to have control over men, and she doesn't use it for some reason. And the story could have been done like that if she would have just done something. And instead we have this like, woe me all the time, and it was really frustrating. So these 2 books and When Women Were Dragons, I felt had a wonderful start, but then felt flat at the end. And that's one of the reasons why I didn't like them. If you liked these books, I'm really really, I'm not trying to say the authors were bad. I'm not trying to say, like, for example, Ava Reed, I've read The Wolf and the Woodsman. I really liked that book. I thought it was intriguing. But for some reason, these ones just didn't work for me. And if they worked for you, great. They just didn't work for me. Like The Book of Love. This is one of my books of 12 books of 2024. It just, again, it fell flat and I wanted more. And that's one of the reasons why it got a 2-star. So sometimes books just don't work for us. The great thing about books is that it really depends on the reader, and we all have our own opinion. The way we interpret a story is very unique, and that's one of the reasons why I love book clubs. I love discussion groups. I love being able to talk about stories, because just because I loved it doesn't mean you're going to love it, and just because I hated it doesn't mean you're not going to love it. Yeah. And so it's the great thing about stories. It's the great thing about books. It's the great thing about films and anything entertainment. It opens a door of discussion, not right or wrong, because we all take our own life experiences and bring them into these stories, and we pull something that we think may fit most to us. And I think it's beautiful, and I love having discussions about books. And so that's also one of the reasons why I would love to start a book club in 2025, to have the opportunity to really discuss these stories and discuss where they're going and what they brought to us, but maybe what windows they maybe opened and what thoughts they brought. And maybe we hated them, and maybe we loved them, and maybe we can discuss them. So I'm going to go ahead and jump into DNFs. This is going to be a quick one. I DNF'd 3 books this year, which is not a bad thing. We all have our motivations of why we don't want to continue reading a novel. One of the books I DNF'd was The Paper Palace by Miranda Cowley Heller. I no longer have the book, and I'm reading my sloppy handwriting, so I think that's the name of the author. But The Paper Palace is just not a book for me. I started it, I got about 50 pages into it, and realized that all this book was going to do was create anger and frustration for me. So I figured it was just not a story that I think was written for me. And so I decided not to continue on with it. I don't feel any uncomfortableness about it. I don't feel like I've missed out on anything, and it's just not a book for me. And that's completely okay. We don't have to read books that are going to make us uncomfortable or angry. Sometimes it's good to read books that make us think and get frustrated, but this one was just not going to do anything for me. It wasn't going to benefit me in any way. The other book I DNF'd was Devil House by John Darnella. Again, sloppy handwriting. This one was a DNF because I just picked it up at the wrong time, honestly. I thought this was going to be a horror book. I was really interested in reading a true horror book, and it ended up being more of like a devil worshipping crime novel. And I just wasn't in the mood for that at the moment, so I decided, hey, it's just not the book I'm going to continue reading right now. I got about 100 pages into it and was just like, it's just not pulling me right now. So I would probably pick it up in the future. It's just not a book I'm going to be reading at the very moment. And my last book I soft DNF'd is The Pirate's Life for Tea by Rebecca Thorne. This one I soft DNF'd because I realized it was the second book in a series. At the very beginning of the book it says you don't have to read the first one to read the second one, but I got halfway through the second one and thought, I'm missing some very important things, so I have to read the first one. So I soft DNF'd it until I find the first one. I haven't found it yet. It's also just not one of those books where I'm like, oh, I have to read this right now. So I just put it off to the side, and I'll pick it up in the future. It's just not a book I need to read at the moment. So, very successful year, very wonderful year filled with interesting books, wonderful novels, interesting insights, and fantastic explorations. I'm really happy with my achievements this year. I would love to hear your achievements, what books you really loved, what books you didn't like, what books you realized, hey, always land in that meh category. And let's go ahead and plan for next year to be just as successful, just not successful in the fact that we need to read more than 60 books, but just for more exploration and new ideas and new wonderful things. And I'm really, really excited about my reading goals next year, reading encouragements. And with baking, I've decided I'm going to also refocus a little bit more towards baking. My dream of opening a cafe is still there. I still really would love to have a place where you could come and eat one of my pies and read one of my books that I've put on a shelf and just have that wonderful atmosphere. And reading, yeah, brings in so many new ideas, but baking is truly my passion, and I definitely want to still focus on those areas. So 2024 may have not been filled with a lot of baking, but I have a feeling about 2025, which I'll talk about in my next video. And my cozy content has been filled with the excitement of trying new things that I've been able to bring to you guys. And I love being cozy with you, and I'm so looking forward to next year and being more cozy and finding new ways to love the simplicity of life and try little things that bring happiness to our busy world. So I just wanted to thank you guys for being here. And I know this was a weird wrap up of 2024 because it focused more on the book side, but this year was also just very focused on books. But next year is going to be focused more on books, baking, and other cozy content. I've been nervous about continuing on in the new year and working on this channel, but I have found also so much happiness and so much joy in working on things that bring you joy and happiness. I love trying new things. I love bringing encouragement and ideas to you, and I hope I can continue doing that. I love this channel, and I love the content I've been able to create, and I love the activities I've been able to do with you, and I hope next year is going to be just better. And thank you for everything. Thank you for being here to support me. Thank you for being here to be my friend, and I've really appreciated everything, and I'm really excited for what 2025 has to bring, and that's going to be next video. So if you've enjoyed the wrap up, I hope you're going to enjoy kind of the open up of 2025. I'm going to go ahead and create a video of all of the things that I hope that 2025 is going to bring. I have some really great ideas of some wonderful encouragements, some wonderful steps, some wonderful things I want to do, and I really hope you're going to join me on all of this excitement and all of this wonderful creativity, because life is meant to be enjoyed, and we're going to enjoy it together. So thank you so much for being here. Thank you so much for enjoying 2024 with me, and I can't wait to see you in 2025. So until then, you guys, I hope you have a lovely day, a fantastic festive season, and a wonderful, beautiful end of 2024. So until next time, you guys, ciao!